What's good, people? It is Tony the Savant. And before we get started, please like this video, share this video, hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I'm dropping content and going live on the channel. As well, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as we go live daily, drop content daily, stay very busy on the platform. And last but not least, please leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, as I'm always intrigued to know what you all got to say about these topics. And ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me. I wanted to make this video some time ago, and I believe the interview that I wanted to reference in this video, I was not able to find the sound clip of it, but I'm positively sure a lot of people have heard it. A majority of the people that will see this video know exactly about the clip I'm discussing, and this is concerning Kenny Smith when he visited Mark Jackson and Mark Jackson's son's podcast. I believe they have a featured show on Cam and Mace's channel. And so it's pretty dope. I've only seen bits and pieces of it as of right now, as I've just learned about it a couple weeks ago. But I definitely want to put them in my rotation of sports content that I consume, because they have some dope stuff on there. I've seen some good clips. But this particular one with Kenny Smith is discussing the singular reason why the old era, his era, and eras before, was better than the modern day era. And the way he broke this down, man, I am upset with myself. I couldn't find the clip. I even searched on YouTube and Twitter looking for this clip. I'm sure I can find it if I just committed a little bit more time to it. But I'm gonna do my best with my commentary to explain. But the way he explained the singular reason why the old era is better than the new era is just classic. You know, it really puts things in perspective. And a lot of time people get caught up in the hoopla and the flash of today, and just being enamored with the large money that these guys are making, without really sitting down and thinking about things in context. And when I say that, I mean as far as, okay, yes, quote unquote guys seemingly shoot better than the guys of old, right? And yes, guys today seemingly are more skilled than guys of old. But do people ever ask why that's the case? You know what I mean? I think one of the most important questions you could ever ask in life is just a simple why. And there's many reasons for it. You know, I think that over the years, people have made great cases, and as far as explaining why the past generation of basketball players were indeed just as skilled, if not more skilled, than these guys are today. They just played roles. They played to the overall success of the team. It wasn't about showcasing your individual talents or individual skills, or playing one-on-one. It wasn't about that. Well, you know, basketball used to be like all the other sports. Football is very team oriented. Baseball is very team oriented. And basketball used to be the same way. Somewhere along the way, in the LeBron James era specifically, it became more superstar oriented, and it's done a disservice to the game. But Kenny Smith explained that, you know, guys from his era were just as skilled, just as talented, but they weren't allowed to do the things today. He made a great comparison. And I knew both of these brothers were prolific as far as dribbling the basketball, but I think we tend to forget how talented Isaiah Thomas, the legend, not the former Boston Celtic, Isaiah Thomas, the legend, how prolific he was at dribbling the basketball. Isaiah Thomas, I believe he performed with the Globetrotters one time and was really doing his thing with the basketball, you know, showing all of this stuff that we see from Kyrie Irving and Tyrese Maxey, Steph Curry, all of these guys now. Isaiah Thomas was doing that back in the day. It's just when he played in the NBA, you know, it was about fundamentals. It was about playing above the shoulders. And so Oftentimes when you prioritize IQ, you put away the flash. You kind of save that for your off time, or like I said, Isaiah Thomas, I believe when he was really doing this thing, I've seen a clip from it, but when he was doing this thing, I believe he was playing with the Globetrotters, or he was just there, showcasing his skills as well. But the one reason Kenny Smith said that the old generation was better than this generation, ladies and gentlemen, it was because of hand checking. And I agree. I remember uh, teams giving, superstars of old the fit. Going to put them in a complete fit because of hand checking, and the level of physicality was a little higher back in those days as well. But hand checking is the singular reason why these guys today have so much more movement and so many and seemingly they are more skilled. It's because today you are not allowed to hand check. And for all of the younger basketball fans that didn't get to see the NBA during the hand checking era, what the hand check literally did, and that's why I'm upset with myself with not being able to find this clip, because Kenny Smith, he explained it perfectly. Even with me explaining it in my own words, I don't think I can really translate how excuse me, what am I trying to say? How he communicated it. God, I gotta stop reading, looking at this stuff for work, and I gotta stop doing this stuff while I'm making videos. But anyway, how Kenny Smith communicated it was, absolutely flawless. And what he said was that hand checking literally puts the offensive player at a disadvantage, right? Because when you're hand checking, a basketball player, in order to protect the basketball, is going to turn his shoulder either to the defender and or his back towards the defender. So you're really working at about a 75-degree angle as far as vision goes. You can only see half the court. You can only see, what's going on in front of you, and the defender can kind of still guide you, if he's a good enough defender, to the spots he wants you to be. So all of the stuff that we see from Kyrie Irving and Steph would immediately be nullified in the 90s and even early 2000s, before they nullified hand checking. I believe they took it away in 2004. But at the same time, it puts you at a disadvantage, of course, because if you're walking up to the court, if you're walking up the court, and nobody's allowed to hand check you, you can stay facing your defender, face to face, which gives you 100% peripheral view of the basketball court. You can see somebody cutting behind the basket. There's no such thing as things or action happening behind you, because all of the stuff that's happening behind you is on the opposite side of the court. You can stay facing the basket the entire time, which was something that you could not do as far as hand checking, especially when you had elite defenders like a Gary Payton or Scottie Pippen, who could just take the ball from you, if you dared to just face them and do your thing. But Kenny Smith explained it perfectly, and I think that's the one singular thing that people do not really put into account when they're saying this era is better than the last era. Now, granted, let's just say David Stern did away with hand checking in the 80s. How would that have opened things up for Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and Julius Erving and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, if they didn't have to worry about the defender that's right in front of them, you not only being able to guide them, but being able to just take the ball away, easily. Because Steph Curry can face his defender all day long, and if the defender goes for the basketball and accidentally touches Steph Curry along the way, that's a foul. That's a whistle. So it's a disadvantage to the defender, even if you are instinctually more aggressive. I think that's why Kawhi Leonard's defensive prowess has tapered off over the years. Not so much that he gets a lot of foul calls. It's just he's not permitted to be as aggressive as he could be. if this was the past era. But it just, it sparks my imagination. And I don't even want to mention Michael Jordan, because if you couldn't hand check Michael Jordan was doing whatever he wanted to do with hand checking. Michael Jordan was outperforming these guys today with hand checking. I could not imagine what a basketball game would look like if Michael Jordan didn't have to be worried about hand checking, because he would run amok. You think you see a big basketball game from Devin Booker? Imagine. You know what I mean? So I don't even want to add Michael Jordan into the mix, but when you think of other great basketball players of those generations, again, like Clyde Drexler, or Grant Hill, or who else I could think of off the top of my head? Steve Smith was a beast, for a time. If these guys didn't have to worry about hand checking, what would their careers have looked like? Instead of being 12, 13, 15 point per game players, without hand checking, you're easily becoming a 20, 21, maybe even 25 point per game score, with a lot of these dudes. Because again, a lot of the old era guys, their careers are, I don't want to say devalued today, but discounted in a way because of the handicaps that were served in their era. And I've always likened this to, this modern day era in another 20, 30 years, when the new wave of basketball fans are controlling the narrative. What will they say if they change the rules even more so to be offensively friendly? What would they say about LeBron James and Steph Curry and all these guys? All these guys wasn't as good as these, current players, because in 20, 30 years, they've literally, I'm just going to throw a hypothetical out there, but could you imagine a situation where the defense, while you're on defense, it can only be a 4 versus 5, right? You totally handicapped. And in 20, 30 years, basketball fans then are saying, oh, Wembanyama is way better than Michael Jordan and LeBron James, when Wembanyama had to face 4 defenders instead of 5. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing now? Because, and I'm not sure if that's the greatest example, but just trying to, paint a picture here, as to how the rules can dictate your greatness. Or I'm going to say this, how the rules can dictate the perception of your greatness. Because again, any real basketball fan is going to tell you about the guys of old. They're going to appreciate the guys of old, and they can also, explain why the guys of old, like Kenny Smith did, weren't as productive. I'm not going to say as good, but as productive as these dudes today, you know. And maybe we could take it back a little further, because Wilt Chamberlain had this same complaint about the Michael Jordan era. Not in the sense of his era being greater than the Michael Jordan era. I don't believe Wilt Chamberlain ever said that, but he definitely made a mention of how the NBA changed the rules to kind of stop Wilt from dominating, and they changed the rules to allow Michael Jordan to dominate. Although that's speculative, I don't agree with that, with Wilt Chamberlain saying that, but you can just see, even NBA legend that's been long gone, he acknowledged that rule changes have a lot to do with how you're perceived and how great you are. And so, it's kind of a disadvantage to these younger guys today, because all they do have is a bunch of highlight reels and a bunch of YouTube videos. They don't get to see this stuff in real time and with real value. And it's almost, a super disadvantage, considering that all they have is this moderation of basketball. And this is not a good moderation of basketball, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. I enjoy it for what it is. I enjoy it and I watch it because I'm a sports journalist. But at the end of the day, I can acknowledge that this is not a good brand of basketball. And you can see it in the TV ratings. You can see it, in overall sales. The NBA ain't nowhere near as popular as it was during the 80s and the 90s. Respectfully, it's just not. It's more accessible. You can access the NBA content via TV, radio, computer, cell phone. There's a lot more ways to watch the game and enjoy the product. That don't make it more popular than it was back in the '90s and beyond. Because back in the days when there was less access to the NBA, um, it was garnishing more attention. I don't think that. I think that's kind of crazy. If you have more uh, uh, roads to access a place, you would think that would drive in more traffic, right? You know what I mean? It'd be a lot more people watching on YouTube, a lot more people watching here, a lot more people watching there. That's not been the case because people. We can talk all day about personal preferences and all that stuff. People as a whole know when they're being duped. It's just something about the energy in the air. I don't know if the man upstairs made it this way, on some kind of stargazing level, but people as a whole can feel when somebody's trying to pull the wool over their eyes. And I feel like that's what the NBA is trying to do now. With all of the silly stuff that they do in the in-season tournaments and play-in tournament and all this kind of crap. It's like the game ain't getting better. Y'all decision making is getting worse, and it's driving away fans. And actually, but not to divest too far off what I was talking about, Kenny Smith really hammered home, why these guys today feel like they're better. It's mainly because they're getting more money. It's not because they are blowing anybody away with their skill sets. And I'm saying that as respectfully as I possibly can. You can't tell me, and Kenny Smith made a good mention, a great comparison as far as old players versus new. And he made a mention of like the juniors not being better than the seniors. Larry Nance Jr. is not better than Larry Nance Sr. He called out another good name too, but I 100% agree. You know what I mean? It's right there in the making. If everything is supposed to get better allegedly, why isn't Larry Nance Jr. better than Larry Nance Sr.? And Larry Nance Sr. was way more handicapped as far as a role he had to play than Larry Nance Jr. is. If Larry Nance Jr. worked on his 3-point shooting right now, he could be a 3-point shooting big if he wanted to. That wasn't an option afforded to the guys of old. You worked on what you worked on what the coach needed you to work on for the overall game plan. You know what I mean? So, all in all, just wanted to make a video and highlight them comments from Kenny Smith. I promise y'all, I'm gonna look for the actual sound bite, and then I'll just post that on my YouTube shorts, so you can see what I'm talking about yourself. Because Kenny Smith, again, I don't think I did a good enough job. I wrote this particular script out. I studied a couple clips myself to just confirm what he was saying, just to try to, better explain it. And I can't. Kenny Smith hit the nail on the head with how he explained it, because it's a fact. There's many reasons why these guys are not as good as the guys of old, and there's not no real, testament to their skills or anything like that. It's just the times have changed. These guys are a lot more spoiled. They don't have to work as hard as the guys of old. Kenny Smith also said something, and I'm sorry, I'm going to make the video a little bit longer, but he also made a mention of how guys today are just specialists. A lot of dudes today would not be able to play in the old 80s, 90s, beyond eras, because they are just specialists today. Coming up in the 80s and the 90s and the Kenny Smith era, you had to be a two-way player. Nowadays, we call superstars or really good players two-way players, guys that play offense and defense. There was no such thing as that in the 80s and the 90s, and I remember that vividly. I don't remember anybody being labeled a two-way player. I think the first time I ever seen it was on 2K. I wasn't even like watching the NBA hardcore when they coined this term. But Kenny Smith made a good point of, nowadays a two-way player is something special, it's something exclusive. Back in his day, two-way players were the standard. Everybody was a two-way player, and I love that he explained that because I think that's another great way to explain this era versus the old era. When you look at some of these dudes, they're just three-point shooters or they're just rebounders. Um, Back in the days, everybody could get it, and everybody had to play defense too. So that was just the attitude. But kudos, shout out to Kenny Smith, shout out to Mark Jackson and his podcast. Again, I'm gonna be making a lot more reference videos to what they do over there. I cannot stand the mainstream media. Anybody that's been rocking with me, y'all know that about me. So I try to tune in and tap in with a lot of podcasts, a lot of independent content creators, and kind of give them some light. So I want to highlight what Mark Jackson has going on, and shout out to Cam and Mace as well. I enjoy uh, uh, their their sports content as well. So that's all I got for y'all on this one. On your way out, please like the video, share the video, hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I'm dropping content and going live on the channel. As well, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as I drop content daily, go live daily, stay very busy on the platform. And last but not least, please leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, as I'm always intrigued to know what y'all got to say about these topics. I thank y'all for the love and support, for real, man. The channel has been growing, and I can't say thank y'all enough. So we're going to keep going, keep growing. I am Tony the Savant. Peace.